I am so excited about today's video. A few weeks ago, Fallon from So Be It Quilts and Kris from Sew the Distance contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be part of a collaboration with them. Now, this is my first collab and I'm so excited. I was so excited to get their email. Fallon had the idea for us to do a Thrifty Notions challenge box. So here's the fun part. If you order a challenge box from the Thrifty Notions online store, and follow the rules and meet the requirements, you can get a second box for free. But you do have to meet the requirements. And some of the requirements are that you have to use 50% of the materials in a project. You have to post it on your social media, use your hashtag, send them a link for the social media you used, and I think I've about covered it, but you'll have to check the rules for sure. But if you do all that, then they send you a second box free. Kris, Fallon, and I all ordered a box, and all of our boxes are different. I don't think any two challenge boxes are alike, so we're each going to be showing you something different. Now, they'll be posting their videos today, so be sure you check out their channels too and see what they came up with using their boxes. If you've ever ordered anything from Thrifty Notions or done one of these challenge boxes, please tell me about it in the comments below. It was really new to me, but I think it's kind of cool. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and always leave those comments. Okay, so let me show you what's in my challenge box. Okay, so the challenge box came to me just like this. It was taped up, but let's take a look to see what's inside and let's see what I have to work with. Okay, so there's just my sheet saying what I ordered. Now here's the challenge box rules. So if you order one, you'll get a list like this, and looks like 6 steps you have to follow, but I told you pretty much what they were. Okay, so let's look inside here. Okay, now I have taken a look at this, and this is what I have to work with. There are 21 half square triangles. There are 3 strip sets here. 1, 2, and 3 strip sets. There are 2 checkerboard blocks. There are these are about the size of a fat quarters, and there are 5 of those. Really, it's pretty nice selection of fabric. Then there's this piece here that's kind of long and narrow. I think I'm going to use this for the binding of whatever I decide to do. I have a pretty good idea, but I think that'll be used for the binding. And then there is this white piece is 40 by 42 inches, so that's going to make a good background fabric. And hopefully I'll be able to use some of this for the back too. Now, they also sent me a wide variety of threads. Now, some of these are hand quilting threads, and I'm not sure, well, I do know I'm not going to be doing any hand quilting, but this thread right here is mercerized cotton, so this is probably the thread that I'll use. And then they did also include some quilting between. But again, I'm not sure I'm going to use this simply because I'm not going to be doing any hand sewing, but I might need it for something else. Okay, so this is what I have to work with. Is that fun or what? Okay, now I'm going to have to be gone for a little bit because I've got some planning and sewing to do, so I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so I've done a little bit of planning, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've done so far. So I am going to make a lap size quilt, and I'm going to show you the block I've decided to use. Okay, so again, here are the fabrics, and I did get in my scrap bin, and I'm going to use just a few little scraps, and I'm going to show you what that's for. Again, this is for the binding. I'm going to use this for the backing. I'll be using these, and I'll be cutting up these, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to be ripping these apart, I believe. and using those for something else. Okay, now here is my sample block. These are not the colors that I'll be using for the actual quilt. These were my fabrics, but I always make a test block. So I think it's so fun, and there's so much contrast. Now it is red, white, and blue. I'm going to make this 3x3, and then I'm going to add a little bit at the top and bottom. I drew a really rough diagram, but it was really rough, so I'm not going to show you that, but I did want to show you the block. I'm not sure you could understand my scribble, plus I wrote numbers all over it, so this is what I came up with. So I'll give you more instruction on how to make the block and how to finish up the quilt in a little bit. So let's take a look at what we need to make this big block. Now we're going to need 4 5-inch squares. Now these are oversized. I'm going to be trimming those down to 3.5-inch half square triangles. So you need 4 5-inch colored squares, 4 5-inch I chose white background squares, or I didn't really choose it, that's what was in the box. So I have that, and then you'll need 4 3.5-inch squares. So I just picked an assortment of red fabrics to make the little checkerboard to give the quilt a little sparkle, and then I just used 2-inch strips of the background fabric that was in the box, and these are the fabrics that I'm going to need to make the block. Now the first thing I want to show you is how I created the little checkerboard. The checkerboard is 4 strips by 4 strips. That turns out to be a 6.5 unfinished block, and let me just show you how I've made those. The first thing you're going to do is take your white strips and your red strips and just put them together. Take them to the sewing machine. Making sure you have the right sides together. Then you're just going to take them to your sewing machine and then sew them up. Okay, so now that all of these are pressed, then I'm just going to press 2 together so that I have a strip of 4. Okay, be sure the right sides are together, and then I'll just sew those up and then I'll press them open. Okay, so these strips are ready to be subcut, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to trim off the end . And then I'm going to just cut them in 2-inch intervals. Now, these should measure 2 by 6.5. 2 by 6.5. And then I'll just cut all of these into pieces as well as these. Now once these are all cut into the strips, then you just start assembling them. Now, you need to assemble them one at a time because you do need to be sure that they're alternating. Okay, so I'm just going to pin this. These nest together really, really well. Okay, then I'm just gonna sew a seam right across there. So the seam is sewn. Take those pins out, and then I'm just going to take this to the ironing board and press it. Now I am going to press these open, And the reason I want to press them open is because I have white fabric up against red fabric, and I don't want that little piece of white or that little piece of red showing through the white. So I am going to take this over there and I'm going to press those open. So they're going to look like this. Now, once you have those two sewn together, then you're just going to add the next piece. So it's sewn. I'm going to press this open and I'm going to add the last strip. I'm going to sew that on there and I'm going to press it open, and then you're going to have your little 6-inch block. Okay, so those all are pressed open now, and this measures 6.5. And I don't really need to trim that up because it's all looking pretty good. Okay, now to create the star points, the first thing I've done is I've just simply drawn a line on the back side, the wrong side of the white square, just from point to point. Then I'm just going to simply put right sides together with one of the other colored squares, and I'm just going to pin that. Okay, I'm just going to pin that just like that. And then I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch on either side of those lines. Then once I have both of those sewn, I'm going to remove the pins and I'm just going to cut them apart. Then I'm going to take them to the iron and I'm going to press them. And again, I'm going to press these open, simply because I'm working with the light fabric up against a dark. So it'll look like this. Okay, then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to trim it down to a 3.5 inch half square triangle. Now this does waste a little bit, but I do like to oversize these so that I can trim them down to the exact size. I think you can hear Wes snoring in the background. Okay, so I'm just going to sew those. I'm just going to trim all of those. Okay, so let me show you what I'm going to do next. I've laid everything out. Here are the 3.5 inch white squares, and here are the half square triangles. And I position them the way I want to position them. And as you can see, all of my seams are pressed open. And then I'm just going to pin this together. I do a lot of pinning. I want those points to come out really nice. So I do pin quite a bit. And then I'm just going to take that to the machine and sew it. So once I've sewn it, it's just going to look just like that. And when you open it, you're going to have your 2 star points. Then after I did that, I took it to the iron and I pressed it open. So then once I go to assemble this block, I will simply assemble it by rows. I'll attach each of the 4 squares to this. I'll attach the 4 points to the little checkerboard, and then I will attach the star points here to the things and then sew them together. So the finished block will look like this. with the pressing looking like that on the back. Okay, now I just have to get busy and make a bunch more of these blocks. Well, I have to make 5 more of these blocks, and then I'll be able to show you what's next. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I've gotten done so far, but I also have to tell you I totally changed up my plan. I had originally thought I would do 9 star blocks, but instead I decided to just do 6. And I'm going to show you what I've done. Okay, so I just did 6, and I'm loving how this turned out. This is going to be such a nice size. It's going to be like 39 by 45. It'll make a great lap size quilt. And so up here, I used the strip sets, and I decided to cut those apart there. And then I used the background fabric. I've used all of the background fabric except for this little tiny bit right here. So I'll have to use something else on the back. But I'm really liking how that turned out. 6 blocks. I used my leftover scrap reds here, and then more strip sets here, and the 3 rows down here with the same 2 strips up here as on the bottom. It has been so much fun designing this. Now, I still have a lot of fabric to use up, and I'm supposed to use at least 50% of the contents of the box. I think I've already done that, but I'm going to try to use as much as possible. So I have a design for the back, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do on the back. Okay, so here is my drawing for the back. And this right here, the center of the back, is going to be another star. I've decided to use my test block, my sample block. I'm going to put that in the middle. There's no need to waste it, so I'm going to use that. Then I'm going to start just adding borders to this. I'm going to use the first border here will be red, so I'm going to use my scrap reds to build the border around the outside with a blue cornerstone. Then with the strip sets that I have left, I'm going to make the second border coming out around here with a red cornerstone, possibly white. I may put white there. And then out here I have 4 of these left. So these are going to be cornerstones for the next border, and I'm going to use red fabrics here. Now I may have to cut just a little bit more, I'm not sure. Not sure if I'm going to have enough, but I'm going to see what I've got. Then for the outside, the very outside, I'm going to try to use all of the blues that are left, and I'm hoping this will be enough fabric. So the back is going to look pretty scrappy, but I think it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. This has been such a great challenge. I've really enjoyed doing this. So I'm going to do some more sewing, and when I get that done, I'll show you the back, and then I got to get this quilted and bound. Okay, so I have been busy sewing on my quilt, and I did get it to the quilters and have it quilted, so I did get a little bit ahead of myself. I do that sometimes, and I don't get everything filmed I wanted to, but I did show you what I was planning for the back. And before I show you the back of the quilt, I just want to remind you to be sure to take a look at Kris and Fallon's channel. Kris does Sew the Distance, and Fallon has So Be It Quilts. So be sure you check out both of their channels and see what they've done with their Thrifty Notions box. Now, I am very excited about this quilt. And the reason I'm so excited is because it's really 2 quilts in one. And I have used way more than 50% of what was in the box. So there's no doubt that I've met the requirements for using 50% of what's in the box. But I'm going to show you the back now, and it was a lot of fun. It was fun to plan this quilt, to design it. You know, I had one thing in mind, and once I got it up on my design wall, I'm like, maybe I could do something a little bit different, and I just love the outcome of this quilt. So I'm going to step back and show you this quilt. The back, now this is the back of the quilt. I've already shown you the front, but I'll show you the front again in just a few minutes. Okay, so you can see here, I just started with this was my sample block, and I had taken some reds out of my stash, so I had a few strips I added there. Then I had the strip sets. Now I have just a few of the strip sets left, just a few of those left. This was the strip set. This was the leftover checkerboard squares that I had. And then I had to add this blue that I put at the top at the bottom, but then I used this blue. And the binding, this is all I had left from that big strip of blue that I used this for the binding. But oh my gosh, it turned out great. And this was fun. This was a fun quilt. Now I'm going to turn it over so you can see the front too. Now this is just a small quilt. It's a lap size quilt. But I can use it to drape over a bench. I can do, you know, put it over a table, cover up with it while I'm watching TV, or take it in the car. So it really did turn out to be a great quilt, and it was so much fun. So I want to show you the little bit of fabric that I have left. This was a fun project, and that's all I have left out of, I don't know, I know I had, let's see, I had over 2 yards for sure, probably close to 3 yards, if not a little bit more, and that's all I have left. I probably had 3 to 4, maybe a little over 4 yards of fabric, but you can see it turned out to make a great quilt, and it was so much fun. So I do hope you'll take the time to see Kris and Fallon's channel. I hope you'll leave comments below on what you thought of this type of video. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't. Share with a friend. And as always, leave a comment. I love to get those comments, and I do try to reply to each and every one. So until next time, have fun quilting.